We've got Transgalactica out on the table. Have we played it? No, we haven't played it yet. Are we unboxing it?
Yes, we just did.
We unboxed it. We're not unboxing it for you, but we unboxed it. We've read the rules. We've got it all set up.
We've studied it.
Taking
pictures of it.
We're going to share with you a little bit about it. We're not going to share you our opinions because, like we said, we haven't played it. We might do that in a future video.
Yeah, and as of this point, this is the kind of content we're allowed to make. So we wanted to at least talk about this game because we've been really excited about it. First of all, it's another Tascini game. This guy has done some of our favorite Euro games.
Some of our favorite Euro games.
All the T games. And not that this is not maybe technically one of them, but it does start with a T.
It's designed by him, and it starts with a T.
But it's by Devir.
It is from Devir. And it looks very different. Like this is, you're going to see right away, this doesn't look like your standard Euro. This is, first of all, set in outer space. So it's got a science fiction theme, also all sorts of different like cultures and races from across the galaxy. And it's a beautiful looking board. Who is the artist you'd mentioned? It's not the artist who did the art.
It's like that French
it's got the,
like sci-fi art style that he did a little bit. Like the color palette.
The color palette
definitely kind of resembles that. And the cover, you could just kind of see that representation here. And it looks very different from what the game is, which is, it is a Euro. It's very Euro-y.
Hardcore Euro.
But it's also like a light 4X game. Like it has...
A little bit.
It has all 4Xs.
It always feels that way when you have space, first of all.
Sure, but you're doing
that.
all those things.
You're going to these planets. Among other things, you're going to be building outposts.
Fighting pirates.
The game is built around what I would call a worker placement mechanic.
For sure.
But it's not just a worker placement mechanic because the places you're going to be going, when you go there on your turn, people can follow. So it's got that sort of following mechanic, which is oftentimes associated with action selection. So it's going to feel like worker placement. It's going to feel a little like some other games that have action selection. But it also, like many good Euros, has a bunch of tracks.
Oh my gosh, there are a ton of tracks. There are 5 tracks on the board that matter, and there are more tracks on your player board that matter. All of these tracks, but like a good Euro, they are kind of intertwined in a really satisfying way.
For sure.
And they all represent different aspects of like space life, like of your empire in space. 4 of the main actions are tied to these 4 different tracks, and they represent 4 facets you'd expect. There's the technology track, of course, the military track,
sadly,
the production track where you're gaining more resources, and the politics track, which actually interacts directly with a politics track on your board. The higher you go on the politics track, the better your trade is, which again, very satisfying. And as I describe these, you're thinking like, oh my gosh, it's got politics and trade and production, but it's as simple as going to an action and taking that action spot. They've really made it very streamlined.
Yeah, and in fact, a lot of those actions are going to let you do a thing, and then if you went there and used the main action, you're going to do a thing and another thing, or do a thing slightly better than the follow action, which is largely the same action or a choice between the 2 that you were doing as the main action.
Yeah, and you're going to get 2 captains to start the game with. In a 3 to 5 player game, you get some more in a 2. And I will note, the rulebook actually says like, maybe consider playing this at 3 to 4.
Yeah.
And I think that's worth mentioning. I think it's nice that they would come out and say that. I think a lot of people will not maybe tell you that, and they'll say, well, it does play up to 5, but like your first game, maybe you want to try 3 or 4.
Yeah, literally
to really get the full experience.
Specifically, it says you might not want to play it at 2.
Not with your first play. And I think part of that is because of the way the follow actions work. You start with 2 captains and 1 crew, but you've got this like cryogenic freeze area where you can unlock more of your crew members to place out, and your crew members can follow. They can also visit these different planets because you can put outposts out, and then you can gain these actions that are available. And I will say before we go any further, there are a crazy number of these planets.
Yeah, there's a lot of different planets, and some of them are going to go on specific locations, but they also still go out there randomly. So long story short, this setup of planets is going to have different planets every time you play, and more specifically, they're going to be arranged in a different pattern, and you will be moving your location across these planets, spending to get to different planets. So it's going to give a little bit of different flavor there. It's also going to give some different flavor from the very get-go. There's a little bit of would you say a draft?
Yeah, it's definitely a draft. You're drafting you're setting out cards and what they call skills, which are your player powers. And what's interesting here is it's a 2-part draft. You're either drafting your skill or you're drafting a 2-card set that gives you your starting resources.
Yeah.
So when you're looking out at the very, very beginning of the game, you're looking at the layout. So it's not just the planets that are random. These technologies are random. These galactic decrees are random. And the missions that are out here are random. Plus, you have 2 objective cards in your hand that are random. So all of that, you kind of have to process all of that. If you've played this game multiple times, you'll be able to do that and then look at these and go, in this setup, this skill becomes so good that I'm going to draft that skill first, and that becomes your variable player power for the rest of the game. But then other players are going to get their first choice of the starting resources or a skill, right? So you choose one, and then when it comes back to you, that's when you choose the other. So choosing a skill first means you might get last pick of the resource setup.
I do think that's how I will probably pick. Generally, the skills, and some of the skills here, by the way, are crazy.
Well, they're all wild.
That is what would drive my first decision, unless you're looking at 2 cards that are like, oh, that's a nice set of resources to get. But some of these skills, one of them includes your own planet. So it comes with your own planet that you set beside your board, and it's exclusive to you.
They're wild. All of these powers are going to be like, when you get them, everyone's going to go, what? Like the one that I just drafted lets you start a little higher in the military track, but then anytime anybody gets a military track bonus from anywhere, you get 2 victory points. That doesn't count if they're just like naturally, but like if any bonuses they get, and there's bonuses, like you're going to find bonuses and combos everywhere as you're taking these actions, as you're going up these tracks, as you're moving out to these planets, as you're putting down these outposts. It's a lot that you're doing with these basic actions. And we didn't even really talk about the outer ring actions, which we'll come back to, because I think the really interesting part are these different tracks, because as you take these actions, you take them over and over again, you naturally will progress up these tracks. And sometimes you can like forgo a specialty to like move up that track twice. Like a lot of these, the production is one that doesn't, but a lot of them give you options between like 2 things, like go up twice or go up once and do something. And that's a neat decision.
And the interesting thing too, on a lot of these tracks, on a lot of things on your player board, all throughout the game on various components, you're going to see that little hand holding out to get something, because there is a production phase. You know, so some of the phases, one is obviously when everyone's taking their actions, but you're also before that, at the beginning of every round, going to take a production phase where you just simultaneously gather all the stuff. You're going to see that on some of the planets. So if you have an outpost on that planet, you'll get that. You're going to see it on your player board. If you've reached a certain level on your tracks or removed enough outposts on your board, you might get a thing. You're going to see it even on a lot of these other tracks that you're going to be moving up, and you're effectively going to be moving up those tracks every time you take that action. So it's going to be one of those games where you're going to gather a bunch of production and then spend your turn not only taking more actions, but using those resources that you collected during production to get a lot of those things done.
Yeah, that's really where it does feel like the forward, like that exploration is very, very present. Like you have to be sending your ship around to the different planets. You really have to be putting down these outposts and sometimes even fighting pirates, which is what we didn't talk about. There's some conflict. And then there's other things you're doing that interact with your society. Like there's an action that just moves your ships that's not tied to a track. There's an action to do some mining. And this is another cool little area on your player board. All of your mining and all of your trade kind of give you these tiles. And when you fight pirates, you get some bonus tiles. As you move up the politics track, you're moving down this little track around your player board and getting access to even more stuff. So like that's like all these different things feel like little strategies that really combo really well together. Like you'll notice going up the military track requires you to be at a certain level of the tech track.
Yeah, there's a lot of interconnections that way.
A lot of them.
And I think that's where a lot of the heaviness of the game is going to come out. We haven't played it, so I wouldn't be so bold as to say exactly what the weight is. But I think it's fair to say this is somewhere between medium and heavy. I don't know that it would be regarded as heavy, particularly on the structure of how you're playing it. But in terms of being good at it and mastering it, that's where the weight of this game is going to come through.
All right, let me talk about my favorite thing. This is my favorite thing in the game so far.
Playing with me? Is that
well, I always enjoy playing games with you. But at the start of the game, there are 4 of these galactic decrees that are chosen. And I love this for a very particular nerdy reason. But at a certain point in the game, if you have achieved that goal, you can actually take one of your crew members, move this up to one of these spots, and assign them to the Galactic Senate. How cool is that? I want to become Chancellor of the Galactic Senate and then invoke emergency powers and, you know... We're going to become the Empire. But I like that. That's a fun little idea, I think that kind of brings more flavor and theme, I think, into the game for me.
And you lose a worker, obviously, by doing
Because
that.
they're off doing their Senate
But
duties.
allows you to do a pretty significant thing. And like Ryan said, he could have chosen to put this card here, here, here that have different rewards with it. And then each of those galactic seats have a second seat, sort of the silver seat, that another player can go and place there too if they've achieved that objective card.
Yeah, and if it's not evident by now, this game there's a lot of timing and there's a lot of racing. Because
there's a lot of first twos.
There's a lot of first twos. The first to those cards, the first to these, you'll see that some of these tracks have little bonus tiles. First person to get there gets to choose which bonus tile they have. Some of these planets only have room for one outpost, maybe two at most. Other than our starting planet, well, I don't know that any planet has more than 2 spots.
No, I don't think any of the planets that you add have more than 2 spots, even in a 4 and 5 player game.
So it's a race. There's more planets in a 5-player game.
There are more planets, and it should be noted too, this is the 3-player side of the board.
Yep.
The other side of the board is for 4 players, and then there's a secondary board that you place inside this little section here for the planets for 2, and then the back side of that is for 5.
So yeah, it's a different board setup based on how many players, because you're going to need the space since they are so limited. But again, not all these planets are created equal. Some of these offer really cool abilities. Some of them offer you additional mining. When you mine, you'll get some bonuses. So there's a lot to do in this game. And I know that I'm excited to really like dig into this. And I want to play it like a couple times before I talk about it more specifically.
I think we will be doing a full-fledged review on this one. But like Ryan just said, we don't want to do it just played because I do think this is a game we want to play 2 or 3 times before we really collect our thoughts on it.
Yeah, but I know everybody's been dying to see what the game looks like, so we definitely wanted to show you what it looks like, what comes in it. There are a ton of components here, but...
I had to sticker them by the way. A lot of components,
that is...
and they look really cool. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I love stickering components.
Well, there you go. You can sticker all my components.
But there were a lot of components to sticker, and it's even double-sided stickers, and the stickers are the backs, like the crew. It's the back of the crew and the front of the crew. Yeah, I like that too.
I mean, I buy stickers on Etsy for my games that don't come with stickers, so I'm stickering stuff all the time anyway.
But there's some pretty detailed stickers, as you can see here, that
yeah.
were tricky to apply, but very, very satisfying.
Are you the use like tools like
I do not. No, I'm not that good.
To like sticker on.
I'm not saying I didn't screw up a couple of them, but they all went on pretty well. But yeah, that is so far what we have for Transgalactica. Just to give you an idea of what the game is doing, I know a lot of what we just said is kind of like generally could be applied to many Euros, but Tascini generally does a really great job. We're always wanting to play his next game, and I love the fact that this looks the way it does.
Yeah.
Him combined with Devir, pretty exciting thing. So
yeah,
we'll get it
had
played.
a lot of hits.
Devir has been on a bit of a roll,
yeah,
so we'll get it played. But if you have any more questions about it at all, please make them in the comments below. We'll get down there, answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.